I'm a bit nervous about this video, but hopefully it'll come through, so bear with me. Hello everyone, Britton here, also known as Samoki Dude, and this is going to be a bit of a different video today. I'm not really going to be doing a book review or even a discussion for that matter. Well, I am going to be doing a discussion, but it's just going to be being by myself. I haven't really done this type of video before. So what am I doing exactly? Well, to keep it short, I'm gonna try and be basically try and be like Raph Bluetext for 2 minutes, and do like a discussion of sorts about something I have a lot of opinions on. So I'll give you some background. The other day I was watching a video from a guy called Joe Byrne, also known as JCM Byrne. He's done a lot of videos on YouTube. He's written a novel called Wistful Ascending, which is a book I would like to read. It's sort of a space opera, superhero sort of thing, and I haven't read it yet. I do want to at some point, but he's definitely... but I saw his video about deconstruction of superheroes, and deconstruction is something I have a lot of thoughts on, and it's something that I've thought about for a long time, and I've thought about making a video like this, but, I haven't really... I didn't really think, I don't really have the necessary skills to make, like, a video essay type video. But then I saw Raph Bluetext on YouTube, Raphael from, Raph Bluetext. I've seen him basically do these sort of big discussion videos while drinking beer, so, I'm here. I got my drink. I'm good to go. But anyways, going back, I'm rambling a little bit. So, going back to what I was saying, he made a video, Joe Byrne made a video about deconstruction, particularly of superheroes. And I have a lot of thoughts on this subject. And keep in mind, I don't have any issues with that video. I think it was a very good video. I think Joe did a pretty good job explaining what deconstruction is and what it isn't, how it works, all that. But I wanted to add some thoughts on this. And I even talked to him. He's a pretty cool guy. I got his permission to basically, explain this, to respond basically to this video, to his video. And plus I thought he would appreciate someone, hearing him out. But yeah, I'm talking about deconstruction today. Deconstruction is sort of a all-encompassing term. On TV tropes, there's certain types of deconstruction. There's like genre deconstruction, character archetype deconstruction. I'll link those down below. You can go check them out. And as for the video, I'll also link that below if you want to watch that and then come back and watch this. This is sort of my sort of response, but also kind of just adding on to what he was saying, hopefully, and not. I'm hopefully not going to be reiterating his points here, but I do think his video was pretty good, and you should go check it out. It's, it's fine. So, yeah, I'm going to be going over a couple of questions, basically discussing what I think deconstruction is, what it isn't, what it should be, and what it shouldn't be. Hopefully, you guys will play along and hear me out here, and hopefully I don't sound like a complete buffoon. But so, I guess we should start out with the big question. Well, what is deconstruction? Well, deconstruction, to keep things simple, is when a genre or a character archetype or even an archetype in mythology or in stories that you see or whatever gets is given a different view. Basically what I mean is that here's this character. You think you know all about them, but deconstruction, what it does, at least at its best, is kind of tilts that kind of mirror a little bit and says, here's this other perspective that you haven't considered. That's what I think deconstruction is at its best, and what it should do as a concept, anyway. There are a lot of examples of deconstruction in a lot of different genres. I mean, the most famous is probably... Blood Meridian for the Western. I have it here. I did a video on it. Go check it out. There's also Game of Thrones, which also deconstructed the epic fantasy. First Law trilogy, which I've also covered on here, which has which also deconstructed epic fantasy as well as the sort of Conan sword and sorcery type of fantasy. Also is I've also covered this on my channel. Also go check that out. There's also films that have deconstructed genres, like Taxi Driver, which deconstructed the vigilante genre, Old Boy, which deconstructed the revenge movie. There's also Elric from Michael Moorcock, which also kind of was deconstructing epic fantasy, as well as also the kind of Conan archetype with this, almost effeminate, sickly Elric of Meldemonet, which you should go check out. It's very good. They just put out new hardbacks, by the way. The most famous deconstruction is probably, at least in terms of genre, is probably, in terms of superheroes, Watchmen by Alan Moore, which is a seminal work of the superhero genre, but also, I just think, a great work of comic book literature, or as they call it, graphic literature. Whatever. But yeah, there's a lot of examples of deconstruction out there. There's probably tons of other ones that I'm missing. But deconstruction is ultimately giving you a different view on a familiar genre, whether it be, let's say, westerns like Blood Meridian, or even Unforgiven from Clint Eastwood, or Elric, or, Game of Thrones with epic fantasy, or even, again, Watchmen with superheroes. So I guess that leads me to my second question. What should a good deconstruction do? Well, to keep things very simple, I think that a good deconstruction should give people a different perspective, should give people a new perspective on a familiar genre. A good deconstruction is a lot like a sledgehammer. You take it to the wall and you smash it into the wall. That's what I think deconstruction does best, when it's done well. There are bad ones, which we'll get into. But a good deconstruction should shake the foundation of the genre or the character archetype or the type of story that it's commentating on. It should be a commentary on the assumptions of said genres or character archetypes or whatever. A good example of this is how Blood Meridian basically takes the ideas of the Western and puts them into question, such as, American expansionism and our history of manifest destiny and, kind of some of the shady stuff that we were doing. And it's basically taking those romantic ideals of the Western genre and sort of brings it down to a much more uglier truth. Now, it makes it sound like deconstructions should just be dark and gritty and disgusting, which, again, that I don't want to get too ahead of myself. That kind of, I'll cover that in my bad deconstruction. But a good deconstruction, can be dark and gritty for sure. The deconstructions I've mentioned are mostly very dark and gritty, but it should have a point to them. That is a very key understanding that I think a lot of people miss, is that you have to have a point. You have to understand what you're doing before you do it. You can't just run in and just, make it dark and gritty and think, that's it. You can't do that. Because if you do that, it kind of takes away the power of a really good deconstruction. But what I think a good deconstruction should do is that it should question the assumptions of the genre that it's deconstructing for sure. Like Watchmen deconstructs the superhero genre by A, taking it completely seriously, and, B, questioning the assumptions of that genre and what that says about us as human beings and our views on the world, which is another thing I think a good deconstruction should do, is that it should challenge people's views on the world and show people that there is a different way of thinking about things. In other words, I think deconstruction should be educational in a lot of ways. It should be not instructional, but it should get you to think. A good deconstruction makes you think, is what I think it should do. And it makes you question these genres that you love. And it can make you appreciate it even more. I mean, there's like these genres that I've discussed. And you should enjoy having to experience some of these discussions. But a good deconstruction, at its core, should question the very foundation of the genre or the archetype that it's deconstructing. If you're not doing that, you're probably not doing a very good job. Another example is, the First Law trilogy. It takes the sort of quest narrative, the the sort of quest narrative of an epic fantasy novel and kind of flips it on its head a bit. It takes that idea and shows a much more grimy, much more brutal reality that is underneath what we often see, which is sort of a kind of, awesome adventure and, people getting along, and we're doing this, epic quest to make sure that we, take down the bad guys or whatever. Well, Joe Abercrombie decides to flip that completely on its head, and I won't spoil that because I think that's something that should be read. You think it's going to go one place, and then by the third book, Joe Abercrombie completely subverts what you thought was going to happen and makes you think about what you assumed was going to happen, and it makes you question, why do you think that way? That is a great way to do a deconstruction. And Watchmen does the same exact thing. You think it's going to go one direction, and then by the end it completely pulls the rug out from under you, and then makes you question, why did I think that? Now, maybe some people don't think that deeply about this. Basically, what it should do, but if you don't think as deeply as I'm probably thinking right now, you should probably at least think that, wow, that was a really different way of doing a superhero story, or that's a really different way of doing a fantasy story. I think more people should be doing this. And that's what I think a good deconstruction should do. A good deconstruction should, again, it should make you think. That's really, I'll keep it simple. A good deconstruction should make you think. And if you're not thinking by the end of a deconstruction that you're reading, then the author has probably failed. So that brings me to bad deconstructions. Believe it or not, bad deconstructions exist. And this is where this sort of idea that kind of bugs me about deconstruction has come from. You'll see people whining on the internet about comics and how they're not as fun as they used to be because of all these deconstructionist comics. No, it's not because of the deconstructionist comics, or it's not because of these deconstructionist novels. It's because the people who are writing them are terrible at it and don't understand what a good deconstruction should do. So what does a bad deconstruction do? A bad deconstruction is basically subverting your expectations just for the sake of it. Something that is dark and brooding and ugly and nasty just for the sake of it. It shouldn't be... good example of this is Wanted by Mark Millar, which I think is one of the worst comics I have ever read. It's very shallow in its presentation on deconstruction. It's sort of Millar's kind of shtick. It's a great idea, but it's done horrendously. And it's really bad. There's not a lot of depth in the commentary that Millar is trying to do. And ultimately it just goes, oh, what if superheroes were evil? Actually that one's more like, what if the supervillains won? But anyway, that's beside the point. Another good bad deconstruction example is Zack Snyder's DC movies, particularly Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, which is one of the worst superhero films I have ever seen. I'm not sorry for saying that. But what did those films do wrong? Well, they don't understand the characters that they're talking about. And that's one thing I should mention. If you're going to do a deconstruction, and you're going to do it well, understand the genre or the character that you are deconstructing. Because if you don't understand it, it's just going to look like posturing. And that's exactly what BVS and Wanted and Man of Steel do. It's just posturing. It's just basically, oh, what if these superheroes were dark? Or what if this book was dark? Or, whatever. It's completely shallow in its commentary. It doesn't bring anything new to the table. And it's basically just, again, it's posturing. It's not really saying anything. It's just, it becomes boring. It doesn't make you think. It just makes you annoyed. Or at least it annoyed me when I saw BVS in the theaters, unfortunately. And bad deconstruction, really, is just stuff being dark and stuff being unpleasant, and there's not a lot of thought put into it. Like, there's not a deeper commentary going on. Like in Watchmen is a commentary on the superhero genre. and it's even a commentary on comics in general. But it's a commentary on the superhero genre and the assumptions within that genre, and all of these different points that are being made. Watchmen is a completely different thing. I could do a whole other video on. There's even points in The Boys, even though I do enjoy The Boys. I think The Boys is a good comic. I do think it's a lot better than some people give credit, but I do think The Boys does fall into this trap where it just becomes dark, nasty, and depraved just for the sake of it, at times. Now, why Garth Ennis manages to get away with it, and that Mark Millar doesn't, is Garth Ennis has a point with the chaos. And again, even though the violence is gratuitous, even though the stuff that happens in The Boys is sometimes really mean-spirited, and it's meant to be mean-spirited, Garth Ennis is making a point about the military-industrial complex and an arms race. There is a point to his madness. So it's not just, oh, what if superheroes were dark and edgy, Wanted also does this, another Mark Millar, where it's not really a good commentary. Like, it's not a bad story, but it doesn't really say anything about the genre that hasn't already been said by, like, Alan Moore. Another bad deconstruction. Let's see. It's again, probably my favorite example is Zack Snyder's DC movies, which, again, Zack Snyder should have never been able to make a DC movie again after the travesty. Now, I didn't hate Man of Steel. I thought it was just, like, it was okay. But again, it doesn't understand the character of Superman. So its deconstruction is completely ineffective, because if it doesn't understand the character, then it's not saying anything new. It's just saying, look how much, look how grim and brooding and deep Superman is. And it's just annoying. It just seems like he just seems like a sourpuss in the movie. There's no big commentary. It's just basically, again, back to what I was saying, posturing. Posturing is the death of a good deconstruction. Because posturing means that... Posturing basically is the dark and gritty elements of a good deconstruction, but that's all you have, is the dark and grittiness. There's not, like, a point to it. It's not really that, there's a big message about, like, here is what this means, if that makes any sense at all. A bad deconstruction is basically just being dark and gritty for the sake of it, and that gets pretty annoying. Now, deconstructions don't always have to be super dark and depressing and sad. I mean, Avatar, The Last Airbender, is sort of a deconstruction of the scrappy kids going on an adventure to stop the evil bad guy, and it shows the real-world consequences of that decision, even though it's in a world where magic is a thing, and there's, the elements, you gotta use these elements. And Avatar has a lot of great, humor, lighthearted moments. It's also just a lot of fun to watch. So again, deconstructions don't have to always be dark or gritty, but they usually are pretty dark, because that's kind of the, MO, it's kind of a darker, grittier take. But a bad deconstruction is, well, to put it in more intelligent terms, a bad deconstruction is showcasing ignorance. It is showcasing that you don't know what you're doing, and you're basically just doing stuff to just do it. You're not thinking about what you're doing. I'm not really, like, I've been published in, newspapers, so, because I'm a journalist. But if I had advice for writers, and I know I probably, some of you might watch this far and go, the arrogance of you! But my advice would be, think about what you're doing when you do it. Because if you don't, if you're doing a deconstruction, think about what you're doing. And think about how you're going to do it. Because if you do it badly, people are going to notice. Because, your audience, they're not stupid. They know how to read. I hope, anyway. But yes, a bad deconstruction is basically showcasing a misunderstanding of what makes a certain genre work. Another good deconstruction of a genre would be Pluto from Naoki Urasawa, which deconstructs the sort of Astro Boy storyline, the greatest machine in the world. I think that's the name. I might forget. If you're a manga fan, let me know. You can correct me in the correct me in the comments if you want. But a bad So let me back up. Pluto, Watchmen, Blood Meridian, and Game of Thrones. All of these different properties have one thing in common. It appreciates the genre which it is commenting upon. You see it in Watchmen, Game of Thrones, Elric, Blood Meridian. There is a clear love for the genre. This doesn't mean, like, a lot of people think that deconstruction means that you hate this genre. Not at all. It means you have to love it, and it means you have to think about it, and it means you have to think about it in a different way that people haven't thought of it before. That's what makes a deconstruction effective, at least in my opinion. And if you don't have that, if you don't have that love, if you don't have that knowledge, I don't know what to tell you, my friends. You will fail. And I'm telling you right now, there are plenty who have failed, and there are plenty who have succeeded. Now, again, I have my recommendations, Blood Meridian, Watchmen, The Boys, Game of Thrones. But a thing you should also do is read the genres first and understand what makes them work. Understand the basic gist, the themes of that genre, what it's trying to say, what assumptions it has about the world, and think, how could I question that? That's how you make a good deconstruction, at least in my opinion. Admittedly, I haven't written a lot of deconstructions, but I have read a lot of them, and I've read enough of them where I think I could have a pretty good opinion on this. But, yeah. Hopefully you guys could understand what I was saying through all of my rambling and stuff. But that's basically all I have to say about deconstruction. Because, again, I have a lot of thoughts on this. And I may make another part to this video at some point in the near future. Because I do have a lot of opinions on this thought. But this is the video I wanted to make to kind of discuss that. And also to kind of respond to Joe Burns' video. Which, again, is very good. Go check it out. And go check his channel out. He's a cool guy. But yeah, that's basically what I got today. I hope Raph doesn't think I'm ripping off his shtick. But anyway, so yeah, go check me out on Twitter. I'm more on. That's basically all I got for today. Check me out on Twitter. I'm more unbalanced on there than I am here. Check me out on Goodreads and Letterboxd, which has more coherent reviews, probably more coherent than the one you're listening right now. It's best I got for right now. I do have a Discord, but again, figuring out how that's working right now because there's just a lot of stuff going on in my life. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and let me know what you think, and have some comments of your own, please. I'd love to hear from you guys. So see you guys later. Bye.